Right, we are live. How is everybody doing? Welcome back to the channel. If you aren't watching this live, if you're watching this just on my channel afterwards, I'm going to be doing these again throughout the January transfer window. Just like I did in the summer, we're going to be talking about any Spurs potential business. So make sure to join in. There's no particular schedule for when they're going to be. They're probably going to be in the afternoon or in the morning at some point. They definitely won't be in the evening. So if you want to join live, then join. I will be tweeting. Go and follow me on Twitter to basically be notified when I will be here. And come and join the conversation. Josh, how you doing, mate? A lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about. We've got Son's new contract. We've got Kinski, obviously signed. Could he make his debut tomorrow? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Spurs' search for a defender. We're going to talk about Kolo-Muani. Obviously, he is the hot topic. He is the name at the moment that Spurs are being linked with very, very heavily when it comes to signing a new attacker. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that materialises over the next few days. We'll kind of give you the latest on that and everything else, really. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you very much for the support on the Kinski video. If you haven't watched that, there is a video now on the channel where I break down exactly why Tottenham signed Antonin Kinski and what you can probably expect from him if he does make his debut tomorrow. So that is live there. Also, if you wanted to keep up to date with everything that I'm talking about outside of YouTube as well, make sure to go and follow me on TikTok. I reacted to Son's new contract there. I've got my second account as well where I talk mainly about Spurs stuff. And I've also started a new account as well where I'm kind of just documenting my life really day to day in January. Well, for the next 75 days because I'm doing a 75 medium hard challenge. If you know what that is. If you don't know what that is, go to my channel. You'll see it on there. Yeah, I'm just doing sort of daily vlogs on there, really, day in the life of a football content creator. So if you want to know a little bit more about my day-to-day and what I'm doing, then go and follow on that account. And also, there'll be a new episode of Darren and Doing coming later on today as well. It might be out by the time you guys are watching this if you're not watching it live. But we had a chat through the Newcastle game. Me and Will previewed the Liverpool game as well. Had a chat about the transfer window and a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So, all good stuff. Who else we got here? Cooper, how you doing, mate? Matt, how you doing? Josh, how you doing? Very glad we got Son for another year. Actually got a bit worried we would let it run out. Well, let's start with that then. Tottenham, we are delighted to announce that we've exercised the option to extend Son Heung-Min's new contract, which will now run until the summer of 2026. So it's a year extension that was in the contract anyway. I think this is the right thing for Spurs to do, to be honest with you guys. Obviously, Son's not been at his best this season. We know that. There has been some sort of decline. There's been a natural decline. I'm not sure how much the system suits him, if we're being honest. I think we've had those kind of conversations before. They do limit his ability as a goal scorer, I think, at times, unless the game's open. Son, Will Jones there says Son's legs are going. Opinions on Callum Hudson-Odoi. I mean, we were linked with Callum Hudson-Odoi in the summer to sign potentially instead of Timo Werner, which I think I would have loved that. Obviously, you've seen Hudson-Odoi for Nottingham Forest. They're doing really well. Set up the second goal last night, I think it was. I think he set up the third one as well, actually, didn't he? Or he had a part in it, maybe. So I wouldn't mind that. But I think, obviously, Sonny's going to be here for another year. And I think this is the right thing to do. Like, obviously, like I said, I think the system puts limitations on him being able to play his best sort of game. But I also think we've seen that he can be super, super sharp when he has been given rest. So hopefully, and to be honest, I think that if we didn't have the injuries that we had this season, especially in those wide areas, you think about Mikey Moore, you think about Odebear as well, you think about Yang kind of coming in now as well. I think he probably would have got rested more than he has been getting rested, if that makes sense. So I think the plan probably was to use him a little bit less and kind of limit his minutes a bit more and rest him and rotate him to keep him at that freshness. But hopefully we can do that next season. And I think that involves signing a proper quality winger that's going to be able to come in and actually be able to do Son's job and allow Son to sit on the bench every other week and be fresh for cup games and stuff like that, and have an impact when coming off the bench. So he's a club legend, and loyalty is a rare thing in football these days. Excuse me. I think the loyalty that he showed to us to kind of stick with us and sign that new contract when Nuno was hit here, when it looked like Kane was going to leave that summer, I think he deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. He's still a quality player. 190 goals for Spurs. I think 46 assists as well. Yeah, it's a. I'm glad this is. I'm glad this has happened. Someone has mentioned Wilson Odobert there. Let me just pull up a tweet actually, because it was one thing that I forgot to. I forgot to pull up because we got some news on his injury yesterday, which is gutting, really, to be honest. And I've said it so many times. I feel like his absence is pretty understated. I really do believe that. We got teased. We got teased, obviously, with that Instagram story that Odobert put up recently with him and his boots on. He's miles off, apparently. And he's going to be out till very late in the season, which is a real shame. I made a TikTok video yesterday, actually, talking about, on my Spurs account, talking about 4 Spurs players who I thought stock was going to rise massively in 2025. And he said 2024 then. I think Odobert is one of them. I think people will realise why we bought him next season. It's been such a shame, and obviously it's meant that we've not been able to rest Sonny really at all. Let's go to the chat and see some of your comments before we move on. Will Jones says Gittins is a good shout. Yeah, Jamie Barner Gittins would be someone that I'd be all over. I think he's good enough to come in as a starter. He's also young enough to kind of, if we do sign him, see out a long-term project. He's literally the exact profile we are missing. I agree. We're going to need a witch doctor for foreign transfers at the rate we're getting injuries, says Adig. Yeah. Travis, how you doing, mate? I think he's declined naturally, but the injuries and the amount he's played have just accelerated that decline. Even when he's been rested minimally, he looks so much sharper. Exactly, mate. 100%. I agree. What's going on with Richard Rios? Is this Spurs had a bid rejected? I believe there was rumours coming out that Spurs had a bid rejected for Rios. Was it? Yeah, Tottenham's agent has denied any official proposal from... Okay, Richard Rios' agent has denied any official proposal. I don't know too much about Richard Rios, to be honest. But if anyone does, Spurs had a bid rejected by Palmeiras for Colombia midfielder Richard Rios. Travis, let me know your thoughts on him. If anybody does rate him, then please do let me know. I know he's highly rated, but I just haven't seen too much of him, to be honest. So it's down to me to kind of have a bit of a read up on him and have a bit of a watch. Toby Reed says if we can't get Rios on the summer, I'd have to say go for Belieber. Belieber, I think, is probably the perfect 6 on the market for Spurs when you think about how he can cover space, how he can break up play, how he recovers the ball, how good he is on the ball at progressing through the lines as well. I think he's probably better suited maybe to a pivot, but I think it's really hard to find a perfect 6 for Tottenham. But I think if you're going to get someone who is, well, I think he is the closest basically to what could be a perfect 6 for Spurs. Opinions on what happens with Basuma in the summer. It feels like he's at a crossroads. Yeah, I think Basuma might be moved on the summer. I think one of him or Bentancur will be moved on when you think about Archie Gray and Bergvall coming into their second years and how much they've played and how much they've kind of developed already. Obviously, I thought Bergvall was amazing on Saturday. And me and Will were talking about this on the podcast this morning. I think Bergvall is such a different kind of player to I think what a lot of us thought he was going to be, because like you see the compilations before you sign, you see the great bits, you see the flashy skills, you see the goals, you see the passing. He's a hard bastard, like he gets stuck in. He's 6'1", which I did not realise. He's got a very similar kind of frame. And Simon Yaman said this, I think, on Twitter. He's almost got a similar kind of frame to what Bellingham was like a little bit at that age. I think Bellingham was maybe a little bit more, I would say gangly, but like Bergvall's actually taller than him. Or Bergvall, actually, is how I believe you're supposed to pronounce it. But I think everyone's going to stick with Bergvall, isn't they? Because, yeah. But I think it's a good opportunity to maybe move him or Bentancur, or move one of Basuma or Bentancur on. I think I'd probably rather see Basuma move on. Look, I think Basuma it's a tricky one, because when he's on it, he's absolutely superb. But at the same time, that lack of consistency is a problem. However, to counteract that, I think it's hard to be a consistent 6 in this system when you're not actually a 6. I think Basuma is better as an 8. I think Bentancur is better as an 8 as well. So yeah, but I think it's a decent opportunity to maybe move him on. And I think Bentancur, yeah, it's a difficult one. Let me guys know in the chat. Moon says I'm a Bentancur and Basuma will go in the summer. Matt Barden says Richard Rios link reminds me of Wilmar Barrios a few years ago. Just speculation. Yeah. Bergvall's also been like that since a kid. He has, and obviously he's only been at Spurs for technically Spurs play for just over a year now, but do you know what it is? It's like, I don't think, it's one of those things, what I would say is that I don't think when you're watching Bergvall, when you're trying to kind of like, before he came to Spurs, I mean, when you're trying to kind of like get a sense of what sort of player that he might be, what I would say is that his physicality just doesn't necessarily jump out. That doesn't mean that it wasn't there, but I think people maybe more focus on the other stuff, the more technical stuff, before they look at that. That's kind of what a lot of compilations are, to be honest, especially if you're like more of a creative midfielder. Anyway, Toby Reed says, I think long-term Sarr and Bergvall will be so important to our side. Even Gray, I agree, mate. I do really agree. Adig says 70 to 80% of our problems would have been solved if we had proper depth. I don't think you're far off with that, mate, to be honest. We don't have any proper sixes right now. It'd be interesting. There's been some Cardozo rumours pop over the last couple of days that we might go for him in January. Part of me thinks that's a little bit of lazy journalism because we've already got that link there and Spurs need players and they have identified that they want a midfielder. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's move on to tomorrow's game against Liverpool before we kind of carry on with transfer bits. And, well, I mean... There's no real team news, is there? Obviously, he said we're down significant numbers. We'll have roughly 10 first-team players missing against Liverpool. Just crazy, isn't it? Obviously, with Maddison and Sarr out suspended. I'm going to do another stream tomorrow, maybe a video tomorrow morning talking about the Liverpool game specifically. Obviously, I did more of a tactical, in-depth preview for the Liverpool League game last time out, so it probably won't be as in-depth as that. But, yeah, there will be a video or stream or some sort. We'll go through the team. Travis, good point about Bergvall. Wonder if it's because of the physicality of the Prem and that he simply just didn't need to show it in Sweden. That's a great point, actually. Yeah, that's a really good point. Press conference has come out, yeah. Ange Postecoglou says Spurs will be looking to strengthen a number of areas in the January transfer window. I mean, we obviously know that. Team selection tomorrow is going to be very interesting. And it's going to be very interesting because we've got a new goalkeeper. And Antonin Kinski is obviously... a new signing from Slavia Prague, a player that I made a video about on my YouTube channel that you can go and check out. If you haven't already, make sure to go and like it and leave a comment. And Ange Postecoglou was asked whether he can make his debut. And it sounds like, well, he's got his work permit and stuff like that. He was asked about it. He said, we'll see. He arrived Sunday and he's had a couple of days training. He's obviously registered to play. The kind of vibe people got from the press conference was Fraser Forster returned to training today, but it sounds like Brandon Austin on new signing Antonin Kinski will start for Spurs against Liverpool tomorrow. Look, Brandon Austin did really, really well against Liverpool on Saturday, and I wouldn't be unhappy if it was even, to be honest. I think I'd like to see Kinski. I think I probably would, but if it's Brandon Austin, obviously we know we can trust him and believe in him after Saturday. So, yeah, I'd be happy with either, but I'd probably just edge towards Kinski because it's new, it's fresh, it's exciting, it's someone that is incredibly good on the ball. If Liverpool push high onto us, can he exploit that space in behind? We've seen his long-range distribution, and he doesn't seem phased or afraid. So we'll see. Obviously, him, a young goalkeeper coming into an inexperienced back line in its own right, which will probably be Porro, Gray, Dragusin and Spence, is going to be a tester for him. But he seems brave, he seems bullish, so we'll see. We've also got Richarlison and Mikey Moore back in first team training as well. Mikey Moore could be on the bench. It sounds like Richarlison will be on the bench, but they kind of just want to give him a bit more time to kind of settle back into things. Look, I think with Richarlison, I know it's a bit harsh, but it's not even harsh, is it really? Like, I made a TikTok about this morning. It is kind of a little bit like last chance saloon for him, maybe. Like, to come back and prove that you can be fit, prove that you can sustain that fitness over a long period. If he gets injured and breaks down again, look, obviously Spurs are looking for a striker, and it's a good time to move on and talk about Randall Kolo-Muani, who is our top target, according to David Ornstein, in our search for a versatile attacker. Look, Kolo-Muani is obviously a striker. He can play out wide. I think he's got great ball retention in the final third. I don't think he necessarily solves the problems when it comes to trying to unlock a low block. I still think we're desperately missing that kind of profile of winger, and that is something that I would like to see us target, or someone I would like to see us target in January, if not definitely the summer. But Kolo-Muani, I think one thing we saw at Frankfurt, and we have seen glimpses at PSG. One thing I would say as well, like, just because PSG paid £90 million for him and it hasn't quite worked out, that doesn't mean that he's a bad player. Very good player. There's a reason that they paid that money for him in the first place. I think he's devastating on the break. Good ball retention. Not the best finisher in the world, but neither is Solanke. He'll work hard. He's good with his back to goal, bringing other players into play. Likes to play one-touch football. I think he's probably better than Johnson when it comes to transitional football. I don't think he's necessarily got the instinct that Johnson has to kind of arrive late, but I think if you put him on one of the wide positions in the front three, I definitely think you'd see something, especially if the game opens up a little bit. And also it gives us an opportunity to rest Dominic Solanke. And look, I think the stumbling block with this one is going to be this. PSG are currently insisting on an obligation to buy clause being part of any loan deal for Randall Kolo-Muani. It's believed PSG are looking for at least £50 million plus a potential loan fee in order to strike a total agreement. They're open to negotiation on that figure. I think they'll have to negotiate on that figure. I don't know if the only team I could see paying a £50 million obligation would be Juventus. I don't think Spurs would do that. Heung-Min says, I think Muani big reason is that he can play all three sides. Yeah, exactly. I think it's I don't know. I wouldn't. Obviously, Spurs seem very hot on it. There's been a lot of chat about Kolo-Muani. It was one the kind of ITKs were on from early doors in the January window. There were some ITKs saying that it looked like we were trying to bring in an attacker this week. That could happen. Obviously, negotiations we know are going on with Kolo-Muani. I like it. I don't think it solves all of our problems. Someone said for 50 million, sniffing out Marmoush would be the play. I think he's going to City, mate. But I would agree with you on that for sure. I love Marmoush. Someone said Tyler Dibbling. Yeah, Tyler Dibbling would be great. I don't think it would come in January, though. I think January, as we saw with Kulusevski, as we saw with Bentancur, as we've seen with other deals in the past from other clubs, yes, you might get like one marquee signing that might come out of nowhere that you didn't necessarily expect. But it is about opportunities, and it's about kind of going and getting players that maybe aren't realising their potential at their club, but would be able to do a job for you. And that's exactly what Spurs did with Kulusevski and Bentancur, and it paid off. The ceiling was much higher than what they were showing at Juventus. And then they come to Spurs, new environment, coach that suits their system or their style of play, system that suits their style of play. And then they look like a different player. So I think Kolo-Muani, that's why I wouldn't be put off by the PSG stuff, really. Like how it's not really worked out for him there, to be honest. But they are demanding a lot of money. So we shall see what happens there. Obviously, yeah, Juventus, Manchester United interested in him as well. I think he'd suit United really well, to be honest, as one of those two number 10s, maybe. Kind of a versatile attacker. But I guess that would depend on if they could maybe offload Xerxes in January. So Tottenham, Man United, interest expressed currently viewed as top contenders. Kolo-Muani is among the best versatile attackers available. And again, it's about availability, who is actually available. And Kolo-Muani is someone that is available, and I think that's why Spurs are pushing hard for it. It's going to be very interesting to see who is on that list of players that Spurs might go for if they can't get him. Whether they will go all out for more of a winger. Ramos hasn't done well at PSG either. For me, it's an Enrique style issue, potentially. Matt Barden says Cunha failed at Atletico Madrid but looks brilliant in the Premier League. I agree that players can flourish in a different... Absolutely, mate. Look at Cunha. 100%. I agree, but I was thinking more for the summer. Who says that? Daniel Collins. Oh, Tyler Dibbling. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's one that they will look at. I think Tyler Dibbling could potentially be one that they could look for that could also play in that Kulusevski kind of role as well if we were to play with two 10s. But Kolo-Muani, I think... I'm torn on whether I think this will happen. I think sorry, excuse me. I would like it to happen. I would quite like to see it. Again, I think it just depends on the finances and the structure. Because I think Spurs, he'd probably come to get game time. I think he'd probably come in and probably play on that right-hand side, potentially, on the left-hand side as well. Let's be honest, like Werner would go right to the bottom of the pecking order, and we've got Mikey Moore back and Yang's here, but Kolo-Muani would be someone that would be starting games, I think, for Spurs on that left-hand side or right-hand side, potentially. I think he's a decent fit for what we want. I don't think he's perfect, but I think as someone... Because I think we're going to have to buy a new striker anyway because of Richarlison. So even if you bring him in to kind of use him as a versatile attacker in this period, and then he becomes the backup or rotation striker next season with Solanke, as well as his kind of main role, but also can play out wide, then I think I would quite like that. I don't think he's got all of the attributes for an Ange winger or striker, but I think he ticks a lot of boxes of what Spurs don't really have right now. Not all of them, but some of them. How is he with the ball at his feet? Very good ball carrier. Very, very good in transition. Good in tight spaces as well, I would say. If it materialises, if something happens, there'll be a YouTube video, so we'll talk about it a little bit more then. But someone said, any centre-back transfers? Well, we know Spurs want a defender. Abdulkadir Kushinov was someone that was linked very heavily. The Uzbekistani defender from Lens, but Lens are apparently looking for a deal in excess of around 30 million euros, which means Spurs aren't expected to battle for him as things stand. Now, it's an interesting one, this, because what did we pay for Dragusin in January? Like 25 mil, 20 mil, something like that? It's a difficult one. It's a lot. I agree that this would be a lot of money for like a backup, and City are eyeing him up, and I think it means that he'll probably go there. When your centre-backs spend as much time out as ours do, I wouldn't be against Spurs spending this amount of money on a backup in Kushinov, someone that he's young and can develop, who's very quick, who's good progressing the ball. I think he's a good fit for Spurs, definitely. I'm not sure whether Spurs will do this deal in January, which means I don't think they'll do it at all, because I think someone else will come in. But like I said, I think with the amount of time our centre-backs spend out, I think Spurs would be... I'm not saying they would... I'm not going to hammer Spurs if they don't do this. And I think... But there should be other centre-back targets they should be looking at. But I wouldn't be against Spurs paying this much money, even though it is for a backup. But like Ruben says, 40 million for a player with half a season of a league experience is ridiculous. I wouldn't say it's ridiculous, but yeah, I agree. It's steep, obviously. So we'll see what happens with the defenders. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting what Spurs do, because I also think we need a left back. We do need a left back. We need a centre half. We need a left back. Jed Spence will play at left back tomorrow. If Jed Spence was to get injured as well, or Porro, then honestly, obviously, hopefully we should have Romero van der Ven back by the end of Jan. Most of our players should be back by the end of Jan, and then Vicario, Feb, and then Odobert end of the season. But someone said, Ianis said there, we need more experienced players, so I don't think we'll be getting him. Yeah, but then again, you could argue that Kolo-Muani might be someone of that experience profile that they're looking for in terms of just bolstering the experience of the squad. 25 million euros Dragusin was. Tomori would be nice, but I really don't see it. Yeah, the Tomori stuff's kind of gone a little bit quiet. He was linked with a return to Chelsea, but it now seems like they're going after Mark Gahey, which would be obviously very interesting. Ruben Rodriguez said, excuse me, Dragusin can develop and the fans already want to sell him. Look, I think Dragusin can develop, but at the same time, I don't think he can develop as a ball-playing centre-back. I think with that ability to play out from the back, I think it's one of those ones where you've either got it or you haven't. And I just don't think Dragusin has got it. I don't think Dragusin has got it. And I'm not sure that will ever improve for him. Ko Itakura as well was someone that actually did get linked. I believe Paul O'Keefe said that he was someone that Spurs were looking at as potentially a backup. Ko Itakura, one to watch in 2024 as top clubs. Oh, actually, this was the start of last year. Japanese centre-back, can play as a DM as well. Ange wanted him as Celtic. He's someone we've been linked with since the early days of Ange, really. There was something, I swear Paul O'Keefe said something about him. There we go. Ko Itakura has been offered. Sounds like he's a backup option. So it seems like they definitely are going for a defender. So we shall see. Given the centre-back injury crisis, it's been disappointing not to see Dorrington get a chance. Surely he has to go on loan this month, especially if we do not sign a centre-back. I kind of agree, but also at the same time, Dorrington, I think he's on the bench because we need the bodies, and he's not played a lot of football for the under-21s, and I don't think he's fully recovered from that injury that he had. So, it'd be like, yeah, I think if we get one more injury there, I think we'll have to play, but yeah, I get what you mean. Naturally, you kind of want to see like your your younger academy players come in now, especially when you need bodies, and especially in that kind of position. But I wouldn't be too disappointed about the fact that he's not playing. You know, someone's asking about Johnny Cardozo. Again, there was Liverpool were linked with him, I believe, as well. Could be making a move away from Real Betis this winter. It is possible that Johnny Cardozo leaves Betis in January. Spurs are interested, but there was also interest from other clubs in England and Spain. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, it's kind of a win-win for Spurs either way, really. So we'll see what happens. I keep getting asked all the time about whether it's possible. I don't think there's any sort of clause that means we can get him in Jan. But I think it means we could just go and buy him if we wanted to. Left-back situation was baked in by not including Reggie and playing Gray at right-back instead of Spence. Now the injuries only exposed the lack of awareness from the outset. That's a fair point. Liverpool very interested in him. I disagree. I think the hardest thing for a centre-back to learn is the defensive side. I disagree with that. I think technically Dragusin, I don't know. I don't think he's got much to learn on the defensive side. I think he's a good defender. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I just think that I think it's going to be hard for him to develop that ability to play under pressure. I think a lot of it is a confidence thing and a mental thing as well. I think Romero just has that in him. He has that kind of pauser. He has that ability to slow things down and control and break lines. I'm just not sure Dragusin actually does have that or the ability to develop that. But we shall see. Look, maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Dragusin can come good at Spurs. But I think in the summer I'll be looking to offload him and bring in a better fit. I don't think we've got time to sit and wait around. I think you need to go and get another fit, someone who fits better. But that's probably a lot today, lads. Obviously, like I said, that we will. I'll be back tomorrow morning with either a stream or a video talking about the Liverpool game. And if there is any other transfer business that comes through later tonight, again, follow my TikTok. That's kind of where I'm going to be like posting on the fly, like as things happen. Thanks for 50k on there as well, by the way, massively appreciated, and 23k on the Spurs account. Obviously, Emerson Royale won the trophy, the Super Cup for AC Milan last night. What a man! So go and follow that, and also just want to see what I'm doing in the day, go and follow my vlog account as well. But yeah, if you want to see me react to kind of Spurs news like on the fly, then head over to TikTok. But I will be back tomorrow. I'll try and get a stream and a video in as well. And like I said, go and subscribe to Darren and Doing as well. Nice one, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel on the march to 10k. Go and watch the Kinski video if you haven't already. And up the Spurs. Nice one.